Hello kids, it's me again, back with another video. So, if you don't know, I put a poll on my community tab recently asking whether or not you guys wanted to hear about my experience getting the Implant / Nexplanon. And even though there weren't a lot of responses, they were still all mostly or entirely yes. So that is what we're doing today. Now, I would have got this video made sooner, but as you can maybe or maybe not tell because my background is kind of plain, I moved. And also, I kind of did this weird wacky thing yesterday where I recorded the whole video, but I didn't realize until I went to edit it that it had no audio because my mic wasn't plugged in all the way. So we're going for round 2 here. That's what we're going to be talking about today in this video. Now, before I get started, I just want to say that number 1, I am not a doctor, and number 2, I'm not your doctor. And the only person who should be making these kind of medical determinations should be you, but I guess the United States government has some say in that now, I guess. Just take that into consideration when I'm talking about this. I don't have any medical knowledge or expertise. I'm just talking about my experience doing something. So for this video, I'm going to be talking about, number 1, me getting on the implant, but considering I've only been on it for like a couple of weeks now, I can't really talk about like how things have been because it hasn't been that long. However, I was on the Nuvaring for about 6 years before I switched, so I can talk about that too, just in case you're wondering about that alternative method as well. You get a 2-in-1 video today, isn't that great for you? Like I said, I was on the Nuvaring for 6 years, literally from age 17 up until now. I'm 22. And I decided that it was fine for me, but for a number of reasons, I don't know, I wasn't vibing with it anymore, so I wanted to switch. Now, when I first got on birth control, I wanted to get an IUD, but I was 17 at the time, and I had to, of course, talk to my mom about it, because she would be the one setting my appointments and doing all of that, and she kind of talked me down from it, being like, oh, you know, it's too expensive, we don't know if insurance is gonna cover that. Now, seeing all the horror stories of people who have gotten the IUD, I'm kind of glad that I didn't, because it sounds like a not great time, I'm not gonna lie. So the Nuvaring is what I initially went with, but now I wanted to switch. The process was actually really easy. All I did was, during my yearly checkup, I told my doctor, hey doc, I want to switch birth control, and she was like, great, what do you want? And I was like, I was thinking about the implant. She's like, the implant, great, we could do that for you, get you in and out, and very quickly. Her doctor was, you know, very supportive about it, as a doctor should be. And of course she said she would have to, or I guess the doctor's office itself, would have to like contact my insurance to make sure it'd be covered by them. However, given what insurance I have, which is Blue Cross, she said they typically accept that, so I was like, okay, I'll take your word for it. About, let's see, later that week, I ended up getting a call from the doctor's office being like, hey, good news, your insurance was approved. So they ordered it, and it, I guess, came to their office, and a week later, I went in to do the procedure to get it in my arm. Now, the procedure itself, it didn't take very long. Like I said, I was in and out really quickly, but it was a little rough. So what they have to do, it's literally a plastic rod that goes in your arm, right? I could put a picture of the device itself. That is what's going under your arm, like beneath your skin. So obviously they have to numb the area before they inject that thing into your arm. And I will say that was probably the most painful thing I have ever experienced. I've gotten teeth pulled while I was awake. It was numb, but it was still super uncomfortable when that happened. I've gotten cysts on my eyes drained. Of course, I was also numb then, but I was still awake and it was still super uncomfortable. But that was probably the most painful thing I've ever experienced. A 10 on the pain scale. However, the thing about me is that I'm like pain intolerant. I don't even like being uncomfortable for like any extended period of time. So it hurt a lot is what I'm trying to say. However, I didn't feel them put the rod in. So it did what needed to be done, I guess. After that, after, you know, they had put the little band-aid on me, I didn't really feel anything. I could feel like the injection site, that hurt a little bit because it was kind of like exposed flesh. But according to my doctor, I didn't bleed during it at all. You might. That's kind of up to you and what your skin is up to. But it did bruise kind of a lot afterwards. I don't have a picture of the day of when I had it, But I do have a picture of, I want to say 2 or 3 days afterwards. And if you're not like into looking at pictures of bruises or like injuries or anything, skip to this timestamp to skip that. But I'm gonna put a picture on screen. It's gonna be a bruise. It might be a little gnarly. So here's a picture of my bruise a few days after I got it. Again, at this point, it doesn't really hurt. It's just kind of like bruised. The area is a little tender. Like, it feels strange to touch. I think mostly because there is like a rod under my arm now. So yeah. And like I said, it's been a couple of weeks since that happened, and this is what my arm looks like now. You can, looking at the viewfinder, you can definitely see where it is. But this kind of like dark area is where it sits under my skin. And then, I don't even know if you can see this, but that's the injection site. And that's a couple of weeks afterwards. Obviously, nobody's like sniffing around under my arm, so I don't really have to worry about people seeing it. And even if they do and they ask about it, I mean, that's not really any of their business, is it? It's just a thing here, like, mind your business, perhaps. Anyways, so a couple of things that my doctor told me before I got it is that, one of the big things that she told me is that if your period is like normal and like regular or even like light, then number one, it's not gonna like make things worse. It'll just make it, I guess, it'll make your period lighter and it'll make it go away. But if you have like super heavy, like terrible cramps, just bad time altogether, it can make your period worse. Now, I've never been a person who's had like super bad periods. My periods are always very, honestly, like a walk in the park. They are never more than like a mild inconvenience to me, honestly. I never really got cramps or anything like that either. And I know some of you uterus havers out there are gonna strangle me for saying that, but hey, things are always just like super easy for me in the period department. My doctor told me that my period could stop altogether since that was, you know, my periods weren't like super terrible. And for a while they did, but then it like came back on, and now it's like, I don't know, they can be kind of irregular. That's also what I read, is that for the first like month or so, or the first like probably up to a year, your period could probably be like pretty irregular. So just keep that in mind when that happens. At first, you know, when I was thinking about it, I thought it was kind of odd, the whole not having a period thing, because, you know, it has been a part of my life for like 10 years now, and it just kind of, not only does it inform me of the passage of time, but it just, I don't know, notifies me that my body is working correctly. So not having that does feel a little weird. However, considering recent events, having something as semi-permanent as an implant is definitely a plus. I'm willing to look past the whole not having a period thing if I am protected for up to 3 years. And my doctor also told me that it is possible that I think it was either the FDA or maybe the manufacturer of it is testing it to see if it can last for 5 years. So whereas an IUD, I believe the copper one, okay, so there's two versions of the IUD. One of them is copper and one of them is hormones. One of them lasts 6 years and the other one lasts 12. I don't know which is which. It's been a while since I looked it up. Those last 6 years. This one that I have in my arm, it lasts about 3 years. Potentially more than that if the manufacturer or FDA or whoever is like making that determination sees that it can be used for up to 5 years. So I'm not sure what the removal process is gonna be like. I did ask my doctor and all she told me is that, well, when the time comes, you just come back and I guess essentially the same thing will happen. But one thing I forgot to mention in the video that I also asked my doctor and I think is kind of essential to add in this video is that I did ask whether or not the implant had any kind of like weight limit, because of course after Roe v. Wade was overturned there were a bunch of tweets and statements going around that Plan B didn't work if you were over a certain weight limit. The only thing my doctor told me was that in her professional opinion I would not have any trouble. However, if you are, you know, overweight and that might be a concern for you, you should definitely ask your doctor about that, and they will likely tell you about it, probably even before you ask, so keep that in mind as well. I will say this, if you want to look up pictures of the implant itself, or perhaps, you know, whatever apparatus they use to inject it in you, turn Google Safe Search on, because when I looked up pictures of the implant itself, just wanting to see like how, you know, how they put it in, what does the thing look like that they use to put it in? Is it just, do they just jam it in there? Is there like a little gun? Is it in a needle? I don't know. I was looking away when they did it because I was in pain. But prior to that, I did look up pictures and I got the worst gore images. I'm not gonna show them for obvious reasons. The worst gore images of people's arms cut open, because I guess there is like a chance that the implant can get like lost in your flesh or whatever. I don't know what's going on there. I was not prepared to see those pictures. So if you want to look up a picture of what the implant itself might look like, just turn safe search on. Like, just do yourself a favor, because that was really weird. Honestly, that made me feel so weird leading up to my appointment. Made me feel like uncomfortable and just like, ugh, you know? So, and I don't consider myself to be like an easily grossed out person, but that legit upset me. So I will say this, if you don't have insurance, now I had insurance, so everything was free for me. I didn't have to pay for the device. I don't know why I'm calling it a device. It's not like an electronic. I didn't have to pay for the implant itself. I didn't even have to pay like a copay for the doctor's visit. But if you are wondering how much it might cost, I looked it up yesterday when I was recording the video for the first time, and it can be up to $1,000 to a little over $1,000 without insurance. Now, I can understand that that would be kind of an expense that you might not be prepared to pay, but I don't know. I think for 3+ years, I think that's a pretty... That's a lot better, I think, than, you know, the alternative, which is child. So, you know, just keep that in mind. If you want to get this, then, you know, maybe save up for a little while, but I think it is worth the cost, even if you don't have insurance. So, and of course, there are also always other methods for you if you're intent on controlling births that probably don't cost as much. If you've tried everything and nothing works and you want to try this out, then keep price in mind. As far as like how things have gone for me body-wise, I know hormonal birth control can make things kind of wacky on the inside for some people. I personally have never really experienced anything like that. So I looked this up prior to this, but to me it seems like the Nuvaring and the implant use the same hormones, just in different dosages, and I believe the implant is a higher dosage of hormones. But so far I haven't really experienced anything distinctly different. I mean, I don't think my acne has changed at all. I don't know, my mood or temperament hasn't really changed. I mean, what else is supposed to change? I don't know. I haven't really experienced any changes aside from my period not starting when it was supposed to, and then starting and then being really light. So that's kind of the only major change that I can notice. Aside from that, I mean, I guess the one major thing is that sometimes if I'm like sitting or laying a certain way, I can definitely like notice that I have the rod in my arm, because it's there. I don't know what to say, it's just there. So I will say the first couple of days it was weird, you know, having a foreign object in your body in a place where it was not before. But you kind of get used to it. Sometimes I forget it's there until maybe I brush up against something really good, but I can't really say I've experienced a whole lot. But again, I've only been on it for a couple of weeks, so there could be a lot of long-term stuff that I'm just have not experienced yet, which kind of a bummer for this video that I can't go into all of that. But one thing that I can go into that I've been on long-term is the Nuvaring. Now, that was my first ever method of birth control, and I have a whole somewhat cringy, I find it funny now, however, story about the reason that I got on birth control. I talked about it in my Valentine's Day video from like a couple of years ago, and I also talk about it on my podcast, the Not Just Arin podcast, on one of the two relationship like two-parter episodes that we did early on, so you can listen to those there. But the long and short of it is that I, being a 17-year-old girl, wanted to get with a guy, and I was like, well, I can't, you know, end up pregnant like some of my classmates had at that time, so I gotta be smart about this. I gotta get on birth control. So I had to talk to my mom about it. It was very awkward, but thankfully she was really chill about it. She did not blow up on me or like be weird about it. She just set me the appointment and went to the doctor, and that was that. Not everybody gets to have a mom like that, which is really unfortunate. But anyways, I specifically chose the implant, not the implant. I specifically chose Nuvaring because number one, I knew I wasn't gonna be able to like remember to take the pill at the same time every single day. Like that wasn't a thing. And also I just don't really like taking pills. Like I don't know, it's just something about the mechanics of it. I just don't like swallowing pills. So I knew that was out. The one that I wanted was the IUD because it was very long term, either 6 or 12 years, depending on which one you get. Of course, my mom talked me down from that one because it was too expensive. But you know what's really expensive? A child. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't even think an IUD is really that expensive. Planned Parenthood is telling me $1,300, which is only slightly more than the implant. I mean, slightly if you consider a few $100s a slight amount, but it says between $500 to $1,300, which, I mean, hey, as far as cost goes, that's not even really all that much, but whatever. But of course, didn't do that, so I settled on the Nuvaring. Also because it didn't take very long to get in effect, I guess, or to become effective, that's the word I'm looking for. It only took 7 days, according to the Planned Parenthood website, which I looked at when I was like 17. Whereas the pill took like a month, and I was like, I don't want to wait a month. I need it now. So yeah, that's why I settled on it. Kind of the same story as now. Went to the doctor, was like, hey, want to be on birth control. I remember she kept asking me why, and I kept telling her to control births. And she asked me why like more than 2 times, and I gave her the same answer, my doctor at the time. And I don't know. Yeah, I remember that being weird. I also remember during my doctor's appointment that they were taking like my blood pressure, because that's what you do when you go to the doctor. And my blood pressure, I guess, was like really high or something, because I don't know, I was super nervous at the time as well. And I remember the nurse taking my blood pressure, telling me to like calm down. So those are memories, I guess. But went there, you know, told them what was what. I don't even think I did like an exam. Of course, I was 17, so I was kind of too young to like get a pap smear. And I was like, hey, want the Nuvaring? It's like, great. You have insurance? Yep. Cool. Here's your prescription. Go to the pharmacy. And honestly, that was that. It was pretty easy. It was not very, you know, it wasn't a very hard process is what I'm trying to say. However, I did find it a little odd. I didn't find it odd, but it did feel a little weird. Just me sitting in this OBGYN's office looking even more baby-faced than I do now at age 17 with all these like grown women and also like pregnant women. It's like, oh man, what is this? I thought at the time that people around me might have been thinking like, oh, what is this child doing here, you know? But 17, that's not too young to go to an OBGYN, in my opinion, but whatever. It was just self-consciousness at the time, I guess. Yeah, like I said, I was on that for 6 years. The major things that I noticed about it was that it made my period very regular, to the point where, for a time, my period came on the same day of the week every month. I want to say it was a Thursday, and it ended on like a Monday. Yeah, so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, yep. Until after a while it like got offset by like a day. That was the main change I saw from it. Again, not a whole lot of hormone changes. Actually, I take it back. The first like couple of months that I was on it, I did lose weight because it like nuked my appetite out of nowhere. I don't know if it was the birth control that did this or something else. It must have been, because nothing else like changed at that time. But I went from eating lunch at school and then going home and eating dinner to like not eating lunch at school but still eating dinner at home. So I ended up losing weight from that, which, I mean, that wasn't like a conscious decision or anything like that. For some reason, I can't pinpoint why. Again, it was probably the birth control, but at some point I started considering the food at school to be gross, whereas before I didn't mind it. So something like changed within me to like make that happen. Probably the birth control, don't know why. Aside from that, those two are like the main things. Oh, another thing, and you're probably not going to experience anything like this, because I legit haven't met anyone else who like experiences this. Not to say that nobody else does experience this, but I would assume it's rare. So I have this thing called vertigo, where basically it's usually right as I'm like going to bed, because obviously I have to lay down, or I like wake up in the middle of the night and I roll over in bed and all of a sudden I'm like dizzy. So that's been going on, honestly. I want to say like I distinctly remember it like starting when I was in middle school, but it probably was happening like before then. But once I hit puberty, it definitely like supercharged itself. And after I got on birth control, it stopped for a while. I want to say up until like 2018 or 2019. So for like a couple of years, it like stopped completely, which I thought was really interesting, considering again, that was like the only major change in my body that was going on at the time. I have seen an ENT about it, and they told me we don't know what's going on either, so super helpful from them. But of course, since then, my vertigo has come back. I distinctly remember one weekend in 2019 where I had vertigo for like 2 days straight on a Saturday and a Sunday, and that was very much not fun. I did not like that. That was very disconcerting, but that has not happened since, and I honestly can't tell you why it happened then. So I actually got vertigo, let's see, like 3 nights ago, and of course I've been on the implant now for a couple of weeks. So I guess it's just something I'm gonna have to deal with for the rest of my life. I'm like Lucille too in Arrested Development. I just get dizzy sometimes and I need to hold on to things. Well, actually, it's not like that. It's not like Lucille 2's at all. It really only happens when I'm like going to bed or waking up from sleeping. However, I do have a new tool in my toolkit called the Epley maneuver, which I was not made aware of until maybe a couple months ago, and I actually tried it out a couple nights ago when I was experiencing vertigo, and it worked. So I was like, oh, what? Why did no one tell me this when I was having vertigo for 2 days straight in 2019, you know? So yeah, those are really the only things that I can say as far as side effects go. But again, you watching this, you are very different from me, unless you are me editing this. Hello, me. I hope this has audio this time around. So you likely will experience very different things. And I have read stories of people who have been on birth control and like tore their mind up, like they went insane and just like hormones really wrecked them. But I can't say that's happened to me. And I'm very thankful it hasn't happened to me, because I don't know how I would like cope if that was happening to me. I guess as far as the whole reproductive system goes, mine pretty normal. So yeah, now, okay, so as far as the whole, you know, intended reason for having birth control thing goes, I can't speak to how effective it is for those activities. That I can't speak on unless Susan will come and take all the money out of my wallet. I will say I was kind of questioning like how that would work logistically with the Nuvaring, which if you know how the Nuvaring works and where it is placed, it might be a bit strange for having some adult fun, but of course, I don't know, so, you know, can't speak on that, but I don't even know what you're supposed to do. Like, do you take it out? Do you leave it in? Question marks. I mean, I never really asked my doctor that, but I would ask your doctor that if you're considering going on the Nuvaring, because logistically it is kind of confusing. So those are my experiences with the Nuvaring and my experience getting Implanon. Not Implanon. Why do I keep thinking that? It's not Implanon. It is Nexplanon. Implanon is something that is like different, and I don't even think they like prescribe it anymore. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, that is the long and short of it, and that'll be it for this video. If you have any questions, by the way, because I might have left some things out, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below, and if I can't answer them, I will, and if I can't answer them, I will tell you that I can't answer them. Yeah, I hope this video helps with anyone who's curious about either starting birth control or switching their methods thanks to the circumstances. So if you want something a little more long-term that isn't the IUD, then this might be a viable option for you. I don't know. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not your doctor. I'm also not you. So, you know, I suppose watching this video is research, but, you know, talk to your doctor. Don't I sound like a pharmaceutical commercial? Ask your doctor if Nexplanon is right for you, because I can't do that for you. But anyways, enough of that. Follow me on Twitter, read my Medium articles, and listen to my podcast. It's called Not Just Arin, and I think it's really good. I did talk a little bit about my experience getting the implant on one of our recent episodes, and that was closer to actually when I got it, so you know there might be more detail there. The name of the episode is Uterus Disabling Microchips, so look for that one if you want to briefly hear about my experience getting the implant. That is it, and now I'm gonna go not get pregnant, and I'll see you later.